Okay, welcome back to Daylight. This is episode number 11. Today is Thursday, April the 2nd, 2020. And for those of you new to this, the purpose of these daily videos is to help provide a useful tip that can help you to change yourself so that you can change the world. And the idea here is that we can emerge from this crisis situation that we're in, both the financial crisis and the health crisis, better than we started off. And I myself spent the last year kind of going through this process personally, and I want to share my tips on what's worked for me, but then also build a community where we can share resources and ideas together. Let me see here. So for tonight, I'm going to continue a thread that I've been talking about for much of the last week and a half or so, which is to discuss decentralized tools that we can use that are private and secure for communicating with one another, for sharing information with our friends, family, and loved ones, because we are really seeing a huge and unprecedented crackdown by both big government and big tech, particularly with information related to the coronavirus. You've seen both the CDC and the World Health Organization put pressure and meet with big tech to not only prioritize their information, some of which is wrong, but to actually get users booted from their platforms. And then in addition to that, big tech has a kind of a long-standing track record, which I might go into in a separate video, of suppressing different political viewpoints, which, you know, we can all talk about how many 30-day bans we've had on Facebook or whatever the platform happens to be. And usually it doesn't matter because most of these platforms are for, screwing around or sharing memes. But when you're stuck at home and your business has been shut down and the economy's collapsing and you now actually need to use these tools to talk to your loved ones, it's not okay that these things are being censored by both corporations and by government. I'm going to go through very quickly some of the tools that I've already shown, and there are separate videos for each of these, and then I'm going to talk about today a free and open source alternative to Zoom. A lot of us have been using Zoom, and I'm not going to say anything bad about the product itself. I mean, I've found it to be a very useful tool. However, there have been some pretty serious security and privacy gaps that have been identified that have really big consequences. And so I want to talk about an alternative. But before I get into that, I'm going to highlight quickly that LBRY.com is a censorship-resistant alternative to YouTube. I encourage you to check it out, LBRY.com. You can find me on there. My account is Daylight. Again, no ads, no censorship, and it uses its own internal cryptocurrency as a way to reward publishers for their content instead of you sharing your personal data in exchange for ads. The fourth Daylight was that Minds.com is a censorship-resistant alternative to Facebook. I'm on there as well as at Daylight, and also my personal account is at Aaron Day. This is very similar to Facebook. You can have channels, you can have groups, you can have pages, you can have your own blog, and this also operates using the Minds cryptocurrency instead of an ad-supported model. The fifth Daylight was about Signal. Signal is an app that you can use on your computer or download to your mobile device that you can use to send encrypted text, audio, and video. And it has some other really interesting communication features, like you can set expiration dates on your contents. You can send something to somebody, and after they've read it, it'll automatically kind of self-destruct. And so this is a good thing to use in replace of text. I almost never use my cell phone anymore for any kind of communication. In fact, usually at this point, I have the account because it's linked to another service like a Signal. But if somebody's calling me on my cell phone and they're not calling me using an app like Signal, chances are I'm not picking up. And it's usually junk mail or something like that. So I've found this to be a really useful tool. Although I will say today somebody just sent me some information that there may even be a security breach with Signal. And I want to say on the outset with all of this, because I know it's tough. Everybody has a lot of software and programs that they're used to using. And it's like, God, do I really want to switch? And the bad news with this stuff is you kind of have to switch often. I mean, that's one thing that I've gotten used to with trying to be more diligent about my privacy and security, is that, to the extent I'm showing you things that I think are the best out there that I've researched, but it changes, and I will provide updates as we go through this and as I learn more about alternatives and things, with respect to the tools that I presented. The 6 Daylight, I talked about Brave, and I'm really liking this. Some of the other tools I showed you I've been using for a couple of years. I've only been using Brave for a week, but it's a web browser replacement for Google Chrome or Safari, and it is 3 to 6 times faster. It does block all the ads and all the trackers, and so your local news site may be one of these things where you can look at 5 free articles and then you have to pay. I've found in some cases that this will not only strip the ads, but it also strips that functionality, so you can go in there and look at your local newspaper and not see any ads, and then not get hit up with a paywall after 5 views. This doesn't apply everywhere. It doesn't work with the Wall Street Journal, for instance. But you can see a screenshot here. I mean, it blocked 659 ads. It upgrades the security, and it really does save time. And this business model for Brave is based also on a cryptocurrency. You can opt in. You don't have to opt in to do this, but you can opt in to earn what are called BAT, basic attention tokens, where you see ads, and for agreeing voluntarily to see these ads, you earn cryptocurrency, and you can use that cryptocurrency to make tips or donations to the content site of your choice. So I'm really enjoying that one, but like I said, I'm about a week into it. The 9th Daylight was on a service called Proton Mail, which is a great replacement for Gmail. And with a lot of these things, I'm using these, but I'm still using Gmail. Like Gmail is where all my e-commerce receipts and subscription and junk goes to. But if I'm trying to communicate with friends and family or send attachments, I'll use Proton Mail. It has end-to-end encryption. The company is based in Switzerland, which I'll talk about briefly. The United States has all kinds of backdoors into everything, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But Switzerland has a completely different set of laws regarding privacy. So the fact that this service is hosted there is a benefit. The emails are encrypted, meaning only the person sending and receiving the message can actually see the message, whereas your ISP and your email service provider here, there are many people in the chain that may intercept the message. And just like with Signal, it has all kinds of interesting security features. Like you can set a duration on the message. You can say this message will auto destruct in 1 hour, 1 day and 3 hours, or whatever. You can specify it. Other than that, the user interface is very clean. Looks a lot like Gmail. You can have labels and sort all of your stuff. It certainly isn't going to have as many different plugins as you're going to see with Google Chrome, and there are a lot of bells and whistles and things, but a lot of those plugins are the things that are actually making your data less secure and less private. So check out Proton Mail. And then yesterday I discussed, for the 10th Daylight, DuckDuckGo as a search engine alternative for Google. And again, the basis for this is Google tracks everything. They track your IP address, and then if you're using Gmail and Google Docs and your phone and everything, I mean, they're aggregating all of that data. They are building profiles on you, and they are using the aggregate data. They're selling the data. DuckDuckGo is a search engine that works very simply by showing ads based explicitly on what you type into the search engine. So there's nothing based on your identifying characteristics. So this is the rolling list so far. My goal is to get into discussing things that we can do to, improve our personal life, kind of health, fitness, mental, mindset related things. But I'm going to spend a little bit more time on these tools just because, we need to have the ability to remain in communication to actually interact on those other points. And so I'm going to continue that a little bit. And today I'm going to talk about Jitsi. Jitsi is a free open source alternative to Zoom. Now, the disclaimer up front with this is I literally learned about this today. So, and in fact, it was somebody who I think may be a member of this group, but somebody who on Facebook, I actually just put out a query. I said, hey, look, are there any secure alternatives to Zoom? And so this came back. So I actually spent a little bit of time today. I set up a chat room, video chat room on the Daylight Facebook group, and I actually had a couple people come in. So I've tested it for all of about 3 hours. So, so take everything that I'm gonna say here with a grain of sand. I haven't compared everything between Jitsi and Zoom. In fact, if you're gonna ask about, if you're a company, if you're looking at using this for your company, or you want to figure out if you can charge for content and everything else, I don't know if it can do that. I'm strictly looking at this as I want to be able to communicate with friends and family. I want to be able to communicate with people, for instance, in the Daylight group. And so does this tool fit that requirement set? This was a tweet that I saw from Kim.com, which I think does describe the problem accurately, which is, when using Zoom, be aware that every conference is automatically monitored by NSA and its Five Eyes partners and stored on the joint spy cloud forever. Zoom, like all U.S. tech companies, is forced to comply with national security letters, legally demanding backdoors for spies. That is true, and as I talked about in the previous video about library.com, I've experienced this myself. This is a summary of, I've had the AG's office in the state of New Hampshire get into some of my private Facebook messages without my consent on something that I wasn't even remotely related to. It was actually a complete bogus case. They went after a single mother trying to claim that she threatened judges. She ended up representing herself and beating the AG's office, but in the process we found out of discovery that that basically the AG's office went in, stripped all kinds of information, all of her Facebook stuff, personal messages, went into her email, went into her ISP, got a court order to do this, and then got another court order to seal all of the records. Because usually when something like this happens, if somebody goes to Facebook and says, look, I want to get the private information from so-and-so, the AG's office will Facebook will actually notify their user that, they'll comply with the government request, but they'll also notify the user. And in this particular case, that didn't even happen. So this is an example in the, supposed live free or die state of where people's personal communications are being intercepted. And based on how this process went, I can only assume that this is something they do with regular frequency. So I'm going to show you some of the things about Zoom that you may or may not be aware of. Zoom has had some privacy and security problems in the past. This is just a sampling of some of the top news stories from today. They're facing questions about how private or secure they are. They're now vowing to try to win back their trust. And but an article here, Zoom is malware. Let me give you the quick list of what's wrong with Zoom from a security perspective. They can turn your camera automatically on and off. There's a thing called Zoom bombing, where people are able to log into people's meetings that have open meeting IDs, and they've been known to spread Nazi imagery and porn in the middle of somebody's actual Zoom conference, which is a bit annoying, to say the least. They're able to, and this varies by platform, they're able to, in some cases, jump in there and share your photos from your computer publicly to other people. On iOS, they share data with Facebook. On Windows, they've been able to leak network credentials, so actually get your username information from Windows. And there was an Intercept article about the fact that they even lied about end-to-end encryption. They claim that they're end-to-end, that they're an end-to-end solution, kind of like Signal, and in reality, when examined, that wasn't actually the case. So I'll give you one quote before I jump into Jitsi to show you how it works. If the right to privacy means anything, it's the right of the individual, married or single, to be free from unwanted government intrusion. And it's very clear that in no way, shape, or form is that the case in even the modest way with any of the big tech platforms. So if you want right now, we can hop into Jitsi. I'm going to show you, this is a URL right here, and I believe I put the URL in the description itself. If I didn't, I will shortly. so that if people want to join in and we can actually try to have a chat. I actually want to try to get our group interacting and talking, and I've tried to use Zoom, and we actually had a pretty good conversation yesterday at noon, and then I'm trying this, but I figure that's the best way to test it out. So let me change this up here. So here is Jitsi. Just go to jitsi.org and well, this says start a call. Let me see here. Hold on. Hey, all right, hold on one sec. Let me. I'm going to end this just because I think I'm going to end the live feed because I think people might not want to have their conversation recorded, and I'm not even entirely sure what the legality is of that. So I'm going to end this, but then I'll put in the link and let's see if we can make this go from here. So I'll be right on the Jitsi. Let's see.